At this point, I don't think anyone would be surprised about just how corrupt both parties are in Congress. Because we have a campaign finance system where multinational corporations and billionaires are able to donate unlimited funds to politicians, effectively buying them off. And of course, if those politicians want to get reelected and they need money to get reelected, then are they going to listen to Walmart, who donates $1 million to their super PAC, or are they going to listen to you and I, who donate $5 to them? I mean, I think that the answer is evident, right? They are going to listen to their big, high-dollar donors. And that's why we have a system where when you look at studies from Princeton University by Dr. Gillens and Page, you see that when you look at whose policies are actually being codified into law, it's no contest. Normal Americans have a statistically insignificant impact on policy outcomes, whereas elites and special interests have all the say when it comes to policy outcomes. So at this point, I don't think I'm going to surprise anyone by saying that Congress, by and large, is corrupt, with the exception of a few senators and representatives. But one thing that does continue to surprise me is just how brazen some politicians are becoming in their corruption. They're not even trying to hide things that look like very apparent quid pro quos, for example. And perhaps the latest and probably one of the most brazen examples of corruption ever comes from House Speaker Paul Ryan. So according to Mary Pappenfuss of HuffPost, she reports just days after the House passed its version of the federal tax law slashing corporate tax rates, House Speaker Paul Ryan collected nearly $500,000 in campaign contributions from billionaire energy mogul Charles Koch and his wife, according to a recent campaign donor report. Koch and his brother David spent millions of dollars to get the tax law passed and are spending millions more in a public relations campaign in an attempt to boost support for the law, the Wall Street Journal reported. Koch Industries, one of the largest private corporations in the nation, operates refineries and manufactures a variety of products. The new tax law, which slices corporate tax rates from 35% to 21%, slashes estate taxes and includes a special deduction for oil and gas investors, is expected to save the Koch brothers and their businesses billions of dollars in taxes. Just 13 days after the tax law passed, Charles Koch and his wife Elizabeth donated nearly $500,000 to Ryan's joint fundraising committee, according to a campaign finance report filed Thursday. 5 other donors, including billionaire businessmen Jeffrey Hildebrand and William Parfet, each contributed $100,000 in the last quarter of 2017, according to the records. The Koch donations were paid into Team Ryan, which raises money for the Speaker, the National Republican Congressional Committee, and a PAC run by Ryan. On the same day, Charles and Elizabeth Koch also each donated $237,000 to the NRCC. So the picture here is crystal clear. They wanted Paul Ryan and the Republicans to pass tax reform, and he did it, and then they rewarded him just days after he did it. Now, as if this story wasn't enough, well, when Republicans were still in the process of pushing for an Obamacare repeal and tax reform, the Koch brothers were so adamant that they wanted this policy passed that they were threatening Republicans and said they would shut off their access to the piggy bank if they don't get it done. So that's why we saw not only a large tax reform bill, but an amendment that also repeals the individual mandate of the Affordable Care Act, which effectively dismantles Obamacare. This is legal. This is happening in a so-called democracy. And there's absolutely no way to really, quote, prove that, there was a quid pro quo when it's obvious that Paul Ryan did what the Koch brothers wanted. But there's absolutely going to be no repercussions for this. Paul Ryan won't be investigated by any ethics committees. This is something that occurs on a daily basis. Donors request favors after donating to Republicans and Democrats, and then they get rewards, and then they double down on the contributions. So really, there's no other conclusion that I can take away from this other than we have to get money out of politics. We have no choice. The influx of money in politics is killing our democracy, if you even want to call us a democracy. And what's left of our, quote, democracy, even though really we live in an oligarchy, what's left of it will be gone if we don't fight this, if we don't get money out of politics and publicly finance elections. I don't know how media outlets aren't outraged by this and covering this every single day, well, actually, I do know, but, if the media were doing their job, then they would be talking about what's clearly a quid pro quo. They would be questioning Paul Ryan and holding his feet to the fire. But the problem is that a lot of these donors that contribute to politicians also advertise with mainstream media news outlets like CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. So why would they rock the boat? Because if they question financial ties that they also have, then they may inadvertently expose themselves as well. So we have this self-perpetuating cycle of corruption, and it's only getting worse. Politicians are getting more shameless in just how corrupt they are. And even though most people will hear this and probably not be surprised, we can never lose our sense of outrage, because this is egregious.
Support this podcast by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Humanist Report.